Hello, my name's David Seaman, and this is the Three Lions Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions Podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is your Independent England Football Supporters Podcast. I hope I find you well. Took a little break from releasing episodes since the last couple of senior men's games. Those were away to Andorra in Barcelona and there was the defeat to Senegal in Nottingham, wasn't there? You can still find the review episode to those on your podcast provider of choice or threelionspodcast.com. But I've been speaking with various people in the meantime for future episodes. So there will be plenty of England related material still to come your way as the second half of 2025 pans out. But I will also say I've got a couple of personal issues coming up in the second part of this year, so episodes sort of might be a little bit more sporadic, hopefully not too impactful, but there's your reasoning. But this episode, we are talking Euro 2025. It is the Women's Euros. We are back to defend our title we famously won on home soil back in 2022, and shortly I'll be joined by the Evening Standard's Dom Smith to discuss the Lionesses' chances. But first, let's take a look at some of the talking points that occurred in the lead up to Sarina Wiegman announcing her squad on the 5th of June. And also we'll take a look back at the friendly send-off game against Jamaica at Leicester that took place on Sunday, the 29th of June. Well, the big bombshell was the retirement of goalkeeper Mary Earps. That was on the 28th of May, shortly before the Nations League games against Portugal and Spain. Now, this is actually something I've already covered on a previous episode, but as time has gone on, I'm still unsure as to why she felt the need to do so. She still remains a PSG player, but in my opinion, she's left the squad in a weaker position, whereby the backup to Hannah Hampton is considerably weaker in experience. The fact that Earps wasn't prepared to fight for her place, it still wrangles with me a little bit. I mean, perhaps the squad is better off without her, in hindsight, but it's her decision. We don't know the full ins and outs, so have to respect it, as I said at the time. But if we thought that would be the only wobble, then we would be very wrong. Because at the same time, Tottenham's Ella Morris withdrew, once again to the dreaded ACL injury. It's an injury that's hampered many of the players in the game. It's something that clearly needs to be addressed, the ACL injuries. And whilst she may not have made it to the final squad, she would have stood a chance, maybe in the backups, maybe. But that wasn't the only issue for Sarina Wiegman to have to deal with. As of on the 3rd of June, Fran Kirby announced her international retirement. Now, Kirby had previously won 77 caps for England. She made her debut back in 2014, scored on 19 occasions, and she was part of the 2022 winning team. She was part of the 2015 World Cup squad that famously made it to took third place in that tournament. Manager then, Mark Sampson, he was the one that named her the mini Messi. But she has had some hard times. She's come through some hard personal issues. But it appeared that between her and Sarina Wiegman, they discussed that she wouldn't be part of the Summers squad, so decided to announce her international retirement. But then, I guess, another big one. The following day, and in hindsight, I think maybe we should have seen this one coming. Now, Millie Bright, had been vocal in the media about the pressures that she'd endured throughout Chelsea's treble-winning season. Like Earps, she also withdrew from the squad. But she said she was unable to give 100% physically or mentally and would take an extended period of recovery. Now, the manager and the squad, as you'd expect, backed her in their support. But as a player who captained the squad to the 2023 World Cup final, it's a major blow. A player who's made 88 appearances, a mainstay in that central defence, a partnership with Leah Williamson. She is a tough player to replace. But the squad had to be announced, so let's take a look at it. So, 3 goalkeepers: Hannah Hampton, Kiara Keating and Anna Morehouse. Defenders: Lucy Bronze, Jess Carter, Niamh Charles, Alex Greenwood, Maya Letitia, Esme Morgan, Leah Williamson and Lotta Wubben-Moy. In midfield: Grace Clinton, Jess Park, Georgia Stanway, Ella Toone and Kira Walsh. And up front, Michelle Agyman, Aggie Beaver-Jones, Lauren Hemp, Lauren James, Chloe Kelly, Beth Mead and Alessia Russo. It is a 23-player squad with 6 from Chelsea and Arsenal, 4 from Manchester City, 3 from Manchester United, 1 from Orlando Pride, Gotham FC, Washington Spirit and Bayern Munich. It is a squad with an average age of 25.97, 951 caps across it, 196 goals. Most capped is Lucy Bronze with 134, and it is looking a distinct possibility that Alex Greenwood will become a centurion in that first game of the Euros. That will be against France. She tipped 99 caps when she appeared against Jamaica. Now, there are only 2 uncapped players within the squad. 2 goalkeepers, Kiara Keating and Anna Morehouse. Now, that is why I said with the absence of Mary Earps, that leaves us inexperienced in that department. Hannah Hampton gets an injury, has to withdraw. Then we're putting an inexperienced player on the international stage, throwing them in a European Championships game. To me, that's not really how we should be blooding our players. It might work. We'll have to wait and see. At the time of the squad being announced, Michelle Agyman was the only one that had 1 cap. Now, Lucy Bronze is the oldest at 33. Michelle Agyman, again, the youngest at 19. And as I've said many times, and as I know you are fully aware, we were winners in 2022, World Cup finalists in 2023. Just looking at the squads we previously selected from back then and now, 2022, there was Bronze, Walsh, Greenwood, Mead, Williamson, Stanway, Hemp, Carter, Hampton, Kelly, Toone, Wubben-Moy and Russo. 13 players were in that championship winning squad back then that are in the squad now. And then a year later in Australia, down under in the World Cup, there were 14 players who are now in that same squad. Bronze, Charles, Walsh, Greenwood, James, Stanway, Toone, Hemp, Hampton, Wubben-Moy, Morgan, Carter, Kelly and Russo. It is the first senior tournament for Kiara Keating, for Anna Morehouse, Letitia, Clinton, Park and Agyman and Beaver-Jones. They've got to come in at some point. Let's hope that they can enjoy the experience and be part of a successful team. But there is obviously players who have said who aren't going to be there. We've mentioned Mary Earps and Millie Bright, but there's no Millie Turner, who injured her ankle. Also no Nikita Paris. 4 players are on standby. So should any player get injured, they can call up one of these players or more if required. Brighton goalkeeper Sophie Bagley. Manchester City's midfielder Laurie Blindkill-Brown. and Aston Villa midfielder Missy Beaucairns, and her Villa teammate, defender Lucy Parker. Now, as I mentioned, on Sunday just gone, the Lionesses played their last game before heading to Switzerland. It was Jamaica at Leicester's King Power Stadium, on a pitch that can only be described as ropey, but understandable considering it's had a season's worth of play on it, and as this game had been penciled in for some time, I guess the ground staff couldn't really do a huge amount to it. They couldn't tear it up and relay a fresh one in that time, I'm sure. But just as the team did in 2022 when they convincingly beat Switzerland 4-0 before going on to lift the trophy, this time Jamaica were put to the sword. This was the first meeting of the two sides, and it ended in a 7-0 victory for the Lionesses. It was a brace from Ella Toone, and then goal each for Lucy Bronze, Georgia Stanway, Alessia Russo, Aggie Beaver-Jones and Beth Mead. Now, great scoreline, great for the fans there, entertaining, yes, but I don't think we can read a huge amount into it. What can we learn from it? Probably a few things that Wiegman has picked up on, but thankfully all came through unscathed. But it is safe to say both France and the Netherlands will be totally different propositions to Jamaica. And I imagine Wales too will give us a tough game. They're not going to want to let us roll them over. But the main thing is they all came through unscathed. Now, the Euros, well, they actually kick off on Wednesday, the 2nd of July, which to me seems a little strange. Usually, I think I'm right in saying, well, there'd be a Friday night. Most tournaments will sort of kick off on a Friday night. The opening game would be then, and then you'd have a weekend of loads of games. But no, Wednesday, the 2nd of July, Iceland against Finland. That's followed then by host Switzerland against Norway. That's Group A. Group B begins the following day. Belgium against Italy, Spain against Portugal. And those two only met in early April in the Nations League, with Spain winning 7-1 in Vigo. Group C features Germany, Poland, Sweden and Denmark. And then our group, Group D, ourselves, France, Netherlands and Wales. Now, the final takes place on the 27th of July. It's 25 days worth of football across 8 venues. If you are going to Switzerland, enjoy it. Have fabulous time. Enjoy, everything Switzerland has to offer. The chocolate, the cheese, the clocks, the lakes and mountains. All of that. No, it's a fabulous country. But if, like me, you're going to be watching it from home, we can watch it on both, I think, ITV and BBC. Both of them have got coverage. So hopefully, from our sofas or from the pub, we can see the Lionesses once again lift that trophy. I'm delighted to welcome to the Three Lions podcast once again is the Evening Standard's Dom Smith. Hello, Dom.
Hello, nice to be here.
Good. You well?
Yes, I'm well. Yourself?
Yeah, all good. Good to be back on the pod. It's had a little break of late, but yeah, we're back. We're talking Lionesses, obviously with the Euros fast approaching. Now, I must just add that we are speaking ahead of the Jamaica game that took place on the 29th of June. So listeners, please take that into account when anything that we might say that might contradict what actually happens. But the Euro 2025 and the Lionesses, it's been a roller coaster ride of, well, the past 3 years, really, hasn't it? What of the 2022 final, the 2023 final, and here we are again, 2025, getting ready to defend that 2022 final.
Absolutely, quite right. But I think England maybe could do with a tournament this year, because I think last year they they had nothing to play in that regard. Maybe their performances were a bit of a damp squib at times because of that. So I think it's important that England finally can look forward to a major tournament and hopefully getting, some memorable wins that fans can take with them for years to come, because it does feel like the last 2 years since that World Cup down under, it has been a bit of a slightly disappointing time for the Lionesses, given the huge standards that they set for themselves in the 2 years prior.
Yeah, well, what do we put that down to? Because it has been noticeable. There was obviously the Nations League campaign. There were the friendly games as well. It just didn't seem to gel so much as what we were used to.
I think we've probably got a generation of players who are retiring, and so it's maybe a bit of a transition period. That is probably part of it. But also, I just don't think that England have defended quite as diligently as they did when they were on the way to winning the Euros or getting to the World Cup final. And part of that might be injuries, but I just think England have maybe been a little bit lacking in concentration at moments. I know that that's not defensible because it's the top level of the game, but that seems to be a big reason for some of it. But Sarina Wiegman doesn't seem any less committed. She signed a new contract until the 2027 World Cup, and so is her coaching staff. Although she lost her assistant manager, of course. Yep. But yeah, I'm not quite sure whether we can put it down to one thing, but it certainly gives England an impetus to right those wrongs. Really, I mean, England haven't been terrible in the last year and a half or 2 years, but they've not looked like the team most likely to win this upcoming European Championships, and yet they are, of course, the defending champions. So I think they need to reach a few more gears if they're going to manage to successfully defend that title. Yeah,
understandable. Before we hit onto the tournament and who will be playing and what it should possibly pan out like, I've been already through the squad. Obviously, the major sort of talking points were the omissions of Mary Earps and Millie Bright, Fran Kirby and Nikita Paris as well missing. With the two, Mary Earps, Millie Bright missing, how do we look upon that? As a stronger squad or slightly weakened?
I think probably slightly weakened when compared to the 2023 World Cup, albeit that World Cup didn't have Leah Williamson, of course. But I think compared to the squads over the last 2 years since then, maybe a bit better. It does feel like that transition period of the last 2 years, during that time, those players who have been seen as the youngsters and the inexperienced ones have themselves gained experience and become more experienced players. Someone like Jess Park, for example, you could no longer really say about that player that it's an inexperienced player at the top level. She's played a number of caps now. A lot of these players have, really. I mean, look at someone like Maya Letizier as well. So I think Sarina Wiegman has sort of brought experience on these younger players, and actually now when you look at that squad, it looks a fairly good one.
Yeah, it is a good squad. Yeah, my own personal opinion is I'm just not sure it has enough strength to go the distance as it did previously in the Euros and the World Cup. I don't know about your initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, how far you get in a tournament is dependent slightly on yourselves, but slightly on the other calibre of the opposition as well. And certainly the form of teams like France, Germany, probably Spain as well, I think it's fair to say has given England a run for their money, if not bettered them in the last couple of years. So certainly that's true. I think the question really is whether England have enough at the back to properly keep out the best teams in the world. They've not necessarily looked like that in the last couple of years, albeit Nations League games and friendlies are a slightly lesser calibre of match. But if your opponents can get up for it, I suppose, why can't you? But also, can England have enough goals at the other end? Because England have got a lot of good strikers, like Alessia Russo, who's had, I think, a really, really good last year. I think she's reached a different level entirely for Arsenal over the last year. But can England supplement with goals from midfield? We know England have got goals from wide areas, players like Beth Mead, Chloe Kelly, and Lauren Hemp and players like that, Lauren James. But can England add goals from midfield? That feels an important thing if you're going to go the distance in a tournament which would see you play 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned those. I think there's 5 players you mentioned there, through all from winners this season. Of course, Chelsea treble winners, Arsenal Champions League winners. So there are winners within the team, within the squad. There's players there that know what's required to go through this competition, as have been there previously as well. But who can be maybe the standout player in this squad? Who can sort of stamp their authority on this competition from the Lionesses' perspective?
Well, a boring answer would be someone who I think has already done it in tournaments, which would be Georgia Stanway. I think she's such an important player for England. I know she's had her injury issues, but I actually think she's probably a more important player than someone rather more talked about in midfield like Kira Walsh. I think that Georgia Stanway was so important at the Euros, but she was young, so maybe people didn't appreciate that. But even more important at the World Cup, I think England wouldn't have made that World Cup final without Georgia Stanway. She covers so much ground. She adds to attacks. She is obviously England's penalty taker, or she has been until recently. So I think she's an important player. In terms of someone who we maybe haven't seen in major tournaments having a significant impact for England before, someone who's at their first tournament, who I reckon probably won't start games but could have game time up front, is the Chelsea striker, Aggie Beever-Jones, who's been playing really well for Chelsea. I did an exclusive interview with her a couple of weeks ago. She speaks so well, but that doesn't get you on the football pitch. What gets you on the football pitch is being a good player, and she certainly is that. And in the last year, I think she's really kind of taken it upon herself to become one of Chelsea's foremost attackers. And in the last couple of England games, including scoring, I think, a hat-trick against Portugal, if I'm right, she's become a very important player for England as well. So probably not in the starting lineup for the most important matches, but certainly off the bench, I think that she could be a real source of goals and cause defences a lot of problems.
Yeah, I was there at that game against Portugal. She was having the time of her life, scoring a hat-trick there. I've got a funny feeling they all came within a short space of time. I think they're all certainly in the first half. But certainly, as you say, someone who can come off the bench now with sort of confidence in that manner. I want to maybe touch on Grace Clinton, because I kind of think she, like Aggie Beever-Jones going into her first tournament, Grace Clinton, I kind of see in a similar way to Lauren Hemp during the Euros win, that Lauren Hemp had a fantastic Euros, and I can see Grace Clinton, if she gets the opportunity, can have a similar impact on the tournament.
I really like Grace Clinton. I like the way that she attacks games. And I actually think that, to be honest, I'm not sure she's got the same amount of raw talent as someone in her position like Ella Toone. But I do think that she takes the game to the opposition in a way that maybe sometimes it doesn't feel that Ella Toone always does. Certainly she can, but does she have the consistency? I think that Grace Clinton, for someone of her age, is a very consistent player. And the number 10 position is quite a difficult position to consistently play well in, because your impact as a playmaker can be 3 assists and a goal one game, and no goals and no assists the next. And a lot of it is down to you making things happen, but also the space has got to be there for you. And so it can be an up and down position, but Grace Clinton does a really good job. And I do think we'll see a lot of her this summer. And I think we should. I absolutely think that we should. She's the sort of player who will add a different element to England. I know she's an experienced player now and has been playing for the Lionesses sort of on and off for over a year and a half, but it feels that she's become a really important player over the last year, and her chance, now arrives to do that in a major tournament. Yeah.
Just sort of moving up the pitch to the front line, Lauren James, I kind of feel we're yet to see. I mean, we all know what she's fully capable of in a Chelsea shirt, but I'm kind of the opinion that she hasn't really shown it consistently for England. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, but that's not so different from what we used to hear from Emma Hayes, the old Chelsea manager, about her performances from Chelsea either. She used to say that she held, or at least it seemed to the journalists covering Chelsea, that actually she held Lauren James to potentially impossibly high standards compared to other players, and would dig her out when it looked like she'd played well, and would absolutely dig her out when she hadn't played well. Mm-hmm. I remember putting that to Emma Hayes, and other people have done as well, and she denies that. Or she did at the time, and she said, no, I just know what Lauren can do. And I think if you read between the lines there, what she's saying is this is an extremely special player, the like of which England and Chelsea barely have beyond her. And so if you've got that, you need to see it all the time. And I would agree with your assessment, really, that England haven't seen enough of Lauren James, because I can remember a few qualifiers or friendlies and actually some games at the World Cup in Australia and New Zealand where she would score a phenomenal goal from miles out, bending it into the corner. And you'd think, we all know that you can do that, so why doesn't it happen more often? And I think that is the frustrating thing for England fans who support the Lionesses and want to see them do well with regards to Lauren James, which is that everyone knows you can do it. Your ceiling is, in the sky somewhere. So let's see it a bit more. And I think that this would be a good time for England to see that, because she was so good at the World Cup, and then she got that red card and waned, really, didn't she? And she's waned as an England player ever since. So I think it would be good to see her, go up a few levels this summer.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, but I'm as guilty as the next person for putting as much pressure or too much pressure on a player, be it the Lionesses or be it the men's seniors there, or even the under 21s. But yes, it would be great to see her just take that next step up and show it a little bit more consistently. I mean, it would be great to see it in those group stages. Let's just cover who England play. They're in Group D. They kick off on the 5th of July against France in Zurich. They stay in Zurich and play the Netherlands on the 9th of July. And then on the 13th of July, they move to St. Gallen to face Wales. Now, each of those games has kind of got a little link to it with regards to England, in the fact that France, we had a double header with them in the Nations League, won one, lost one. The Netherlands, obviously, there's the Dutch link with Sarina Wiegman, and Wales being, well, our next door neighbours. Each game is tough. This could be a real group of death, couldn't it?
Absolutely could. And that just shows that these women's Euros and World Cups are becoming more competitive. There's no free kind of gimme in terms of the 3 points anymore. You need to turn up for all three matches, and England will be aware that they need to do that. And that just shows the importance as well of pre-tournament friendlies. I mean, they don't feel the most important things, but you have to get them right, because you want to go into a tournament full of confidence. It's not only enough to finish the league season with your players intact and not injured. It's also about having confidence going into a major tournament. So yeah, 3 difficult games, but games that England will expect by the end of them that they're in the top half of that group and that they're through. Yeah,
of course, top 2 qualify for the knockouts. The winners or the runners up will play the winners or the runners up of Group C, which features Germany, Poland, Denmark and Sweden. Again, all potentially tough sides. I mean, from what you know, what you've seen, who could be the strongest team within it? Obviously, Spain won our World Cup holders and beat us recently in the Nations League. I can't see beyond Spain, if I'm honest.
I think France might be the dark horses as well.
Okay.
To be honest, I think they've got some really good attacking players. Their form's been okay. But yeah, this is a cliche by now, isn't it? But it is always difficult in the last sort of 6 to 8 years to look beyond Spain for major tournaments. I mean, just look at their midfielders, like players like Caldente and Bonmati and Putellas, who's admittedly become a little bit older, and her importance has diminished a little bit to Spain. But yeah, they just keep producing good players, and their results are amazing. And of course, they are so kind of stocked up with Barcelona and Real Madrid players, and particularly Barcelona romp to the league title every year with like extraordinary numbers of goals scored and points. So I don't know how it ends really, but it probably ends with Spain winning winning the European Championships again. We'll have to see.
Yeah, just one thing from 2022, and of course we won it on home soil. Sarina Wiegman famously selected that same starting 11 throughout. There was sort of each player knew each other and where they were going to be, how they were going to be on the pitch, whereabouts they were going to be. That can't happen again, surely, can it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that paints a particularly good light, really. But yeah, I guess the impetus is on England to make it work.
Yeah, let's hope so. Before I leave you to get on with the day job, Michelle Agyemang. Obviously, we've mentioned Lauren James, Alessia Russo. Michelle Agyemang came on recently. It was against Belgium, wasn't it? For her debut. Obviously, with social media these days and sort of the internet, footage of that goal's gone all around Europe. Everyone's going to be aware of her. The days of sort of being an unknown now, I think, are long gone. But Michelle Agyemang could potentially be an unknown for us, couldn't she? An unknown for the opposition, couldn't she?
Absolutely. And I loved the way that she took her goal on her debut, I think it was, against Belgium. A really, really lovely, confident strike, which just announced a player that WSL fans know all too well to a sort of wider audience of international football. And it would be really good to see her have an impact on the Lionesses campaign this year. But she has competition, and not least from the player that I just mentioned, Aggie Beaver-Jones. And I don't think either of those players are going to be getting game time from the starts of matches ahead of someone like Alessia Russo, who her importance in Arsenal's comeback wins again and again in their second legs on the way to the Champions League title was extraordinary. So I think it's going to have to come off the bench for Michelle Agyemang, but she knows that. And yeah, it's about when you get the chance, it's that age-old cliche, you have to make it pay.
Absolutely. You've got to take that chance. Dom, thank you very much for your time and your insight. No doubt we'll chat again at some point. I know you can follow Dom over on his social media. You can follow him for his Evening Standard work as well. If you like your exclusives, go over there. If you like your tennis as well, for the next fortnight, you're going to be over at SW19, aren't you?
Certainly will be. We'll be covering Wimbledon and probably squeezing in football where I can. But yeah, a bit of a juggling act for 2 weeks. But that's no hardship, really, is it?
Football, tennis, strawberries and cream. Love it.
Yeah, that's it.
Dom, take it easy, and we'll speak again.
Yeah, hopefully England do well. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much to Dom there. Always great to speak with him. As I say, you can follow him on his social media. Keep up to date with what he's up to. Now, as the tournament goes on, I'm hoping to speak with someone who is out there and hear what it's all like. So make sure you stay subscribed and you'll not miss a thing. So until then, take care of yourselves. Cheers.